Well, hello and welcome to PM Express, and today we are talking about my favorite subject, education. What aspect of it? Well, it has many dimensions of it, and we are looking at licensing of teachers. Now, we in this country have built a culture of quantity. We seem to hunger for quantity. In anything at all, we just want plenty of it, be it schools, hospitals, doctors, just plenty of it. And then somehow the quality aspect, just a drop in the ocean. Well, now, there's been this policy to say that, well, since you are a professional body, you need to be licensed. Like pilots who have a license, and professional drivers who have their license, professional teachers should have a license to say, look, even though I've trained as a teacher, I am fit to be in a classroom. However, there are so many grades of teachers, those who finish university, those who just came from secondary school, those who, so many aspects as which you enter into the classroom. So if there's going to be an examination, how then do you examine them? Is it going to be different self-examination? And if you're going to renew it, see, after 2 years, I forgot how to teach, and therefore I come back, so you retest me if I still am fit to stay in the classroom. So all these questions are on there. Somehow there is this blanket understanding that, well, fine, if we must have a license, we should have a license, but how do we get this license? And that's been one big conversation. Policymakers are saying, well, we'll roll it out in September. Those who are going to be licensed say, hey, you haven't engaged us. And here we are today talking. Indeed, should the licensing come? And if it should, how do we do it? Or if it's no, then, what's the alternative so that the culture of quality comes back into the system? It's very important that we build a culture of quality. And Kwame Nkrumah says that, it's a very good quote, it's not the amount of time you put in the work, it's the amount of work you put in the time. We're coming back. My name is Anan Sakwa, Chief of Akromo Dumasan. When I come back, talking to two fine personalities who live and breathe education. Don't go. Well, thank you very much for staying. Licensing of teachers with me in the studio sat right next to me, bearing my wife's name, Gifty Apanbil. Gifty is Deputy General Secretary of NAT, Education and Professional Development. Gifty, you're welcome.
Thank you, please.
Good. And then Stephen Densu, who is a prime servant of Innovative Teachers. Not a first timer, been here before. Stephen, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Good. Stephen, let me start with you with a yes or no question. Do you agree that we should have a license? Teachers should be licensed?
Why not? Yes, we agree.
You agree?
In line with professional status of teachers, and in line with international standards, that every teacher must be licensed before you can teach in any civilized nation. And so, if Ghana is going to be part of that league, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. So we are endorsing it. 100%. We don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, let me come to Gifty and find out the same yes or no question. Gifty, are you in support that teachers should be licensed?
Yes, we are. From NAT, we are in support of the idea that teachers should be licensed. But what we are saying is that a policy is as good as the processes and procedure if you have to implement it. And that we are saying that the processes and procedure for licensing the teachers should not be truncated. It should be completed for all of us to understand how the processes and procedures are going to be rolled out. That is all.
Okay, so let me stay with you, Gifty. This is supposed to be rolled out in September. That's what we are told. There's this message in the window to be rolled out in September. What procedure would the NAT want to say, look, this procedure is acceptable to us?
Like I have stated, we have nothing wrong. We see nothing wrong with the law. We see nothing wrong with the policy. As early as 2008, the act was passed. That is the Education Act. That established 3 bodies to take care of education. We have the National Inspectorate Board, we have the National Teaching Council, and we have the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. These were all given roles to play in education. And as early as 2008, NAT knew that this act was going to be implemented. And as such, we started educating our members on the contents of the act and its implications for teachers. So every year in our NAT diary, which is given to every member, we make sure that the aspects of the Education Act that affects teachers, we publish it in the daily, the diary. So we have the extracts here. You can look at it yourself. It was only after 2015 that we felt that since 2008 we have been publishing this, and there are equally very important issues that we need the teachers to know, that we didn't include it in the 2016-2017 diary. So this is to show you that we are interested in the licensing of teachers. And this is why we took pains to make sure that extracts of the policy and extracts of the act are made available to our members to understand. But the areas that we are saying that the National Teaching Council should look at critically are there. One, the act states clearly the role of the National Teaching Council. Just when we did not have any National Teaching Council, individuals went ahead to announce this, which is a duty of the council. So who was then making the statement? Was it on behalf of the non-existing council, or was it the council that we didn't have that mandated that those individuals to make the statement? This is one area that we are not happy about, because by that time the council was not yet inaugurated. They had dissolved the old council and a new council was instituted. We have all the membership there. NAT has its membership. NAGRA has a membership on that council. And we know that our interests will be served on this council. But the rush, when we do not have a council and they are yet to inaugurate a council and individuals are going ahead to announce dates for the implementation of the policy, means that they want to push some certain things down the throat of the council members who have not yet come. Number two, GES has conceded that the strategies and the standards that the various institutions that are training teachers are using are not standardized. To train the teachers are not standardized. If you go to institutions that are trained by Cape Coast University, it is different from, the standards are different from the institutions that are being trained by WINIBA. The teachers that are being trained by WINIBA have different standards. Those trained by Cape Coast University have different standards.
There's Valley View too.
Valley View, all the universities have their different standards of training teachers. The question now is, if you are going to license teachers now, which of the standards are you going to use to examine their professional competencies? Which of the standards are you going to use? It is now that the National Teaching Council is looking at teaching standards and standard curriculum framework for training teachers. This is what they are yet doing. Just last week, Friday, we were in Mensvik Hotel to look at these documents. They have not yet been finalized. So now, which of the standards are we going to use? I will quote what they themselves in the Act said, and in this pre-tertiary professional development and management policies. These are all drafts. There is no final document anyway. And in this draft, they are saying that for the application of the professional, pre-tertiary professional teacher development and management, what is going to happen is that in applying it, they will ensure that all teachers in pre-tertiary education in Ghana shall be assessed based on defined competencies and evidence of professional proficiency through a fair, equal, and transparent process. So we are taking them on this statement of their own.
Okay, let me pause there and go to Stephen.
Yes, no.
I mean, there must be teaching 101.
Yes.
Teaching 101 where, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure there's basic child psychology, there must be some basic which, no matter where you went to school, you should know. And then probably maybe the technicalities may vary. I mean, like, it's like a driving license. You sit in the car, you hold the steering wheel, and you go. However, those who drive, like maybe racing cars,
are different from
maybe they drive faster, they have sharper reflex, but the basic is that at least sit in the car, at least hold the steering wheel. I mean, couldn't there be a teaching 101 licensing which can be applied that, look, if you've left secondary school, at least to turn up at school early. If you've gone to university, at least you have to do research on top of what you've been at. I mean, I don't know, something like that.
Well, of course, there are things that are basic to every teacher. Whether you went to Cape Coast, Uniba, Valley View, it's basic. So you ought to know.
So that's what the license will be based on. I mean, that's what the competencies will be based on.
Yes. But see, the modalities, how you do it, is the issue here. As we speak now, they seem to be in a rush in implementing it. And you see...
Well, see, when you say a rush, I mean, it's been on the books since 2000 and...
This has been 10 years.
Yeah.
And you've not implemented it. Okay, the law was started in 2008, close to 10 years now. We're in 2017, close to 9 years now, you've not implemented it. But if you want to implement it, consult with the stakeholders, the teacher unions. Make sure you bring the modalities. For us, we think that this whole council thing and license thing is a means of making money for some people. Because really, look at the number of teachers in the classroom. There are thousands. If you're going to take 200 cedis from each person, or 150 from each person, you are taking 200 cedis from everybody who is going to take the license. What are you talking about here? Millions of Ghana cedis for some people. So, for me, this whole idea of bringing the teachers' council in order to eliminate the so-called bad elements in the system is a ploy to make money.
Oh, aren't you being too suspicious? I mean, if it's been on the book for 10 years and eventually we are lifting it off the books, because you and I always argue that we make laws and keep it in the book.
And we don't implement it.
So now if we're going to implement it and then we counteract that, there we go. They're going to make, because, I mean, if it's on exams, obviously it won't come for free. They'll print papers, invigilators are going to market, you're going to hire premises to write the exam. So probably the 200 cedis, maybe 150 cedis will be gone in materials.
Yes, you understand that. But you see, the problem here is that when you begin to implement it in the way they want to implement it, in a rush form like what they want to do, it brings problems. How do you assess a teacher by just writing on a piece of paper? A teacher can get 99.9%, but go and check what he's doing in a classroom.
But that's let me come in. But that's the world over. With examinations, I mean, I'm one who fail all examinations. However, in practicality, I know I'm superb. But if you ask me to do an exam now, I probably won't pass it. And I know people who would pass their exams, by chew and pour, and in practicality are completely useless. However, the odds are those who pass the exams, probably 80% will be good. So, you narrow it down.
I gave you a quotation from the document here.
Yeah.
That they want to make sure that it is fair and transparent. All we are saying is that the rules of the game must be made bare for all the stakeholders. As we are speaking now, there is no official document available to any stakeholder concerning the standards, the competencies required by the teachers.
Yeah.
There is no official written document. All are in drafts. Are we going to base the argument on drafts? So what we are saying is that we are in the process. Don't truncate it. Make sure that all the things that we all need to abide by are documented and everybody has access to them. Then when the teacher goes to write the exam or do the licensing test and has failed, will have he or himself to blame. So we are in the process, and therefore there should be no rush. We should let the process complete. Let everybody have access to official documents. Then we are all clear that this is the way we are all going. They have the right as employers to make sure that they manage the employees. There is no two ways about it. But the employee equally has the right to know the procedure and processes that you are managing them. This is all we are saying. Now, I have just told you that these are documents that we are all working. I will not say that we are not involved because we have our representatives on the council. And we also have been participating in the pre-tertiary professional development and management policy document. And I know that we have not finished. I've been attending the meetings. And if you go through their documents, pictures and other things, you see my pictures there. I will not deny that. But I equally state that it is a fact that we have not completed the process. So this is where we are coming in. That we have to be fair to each other. That everybody must be made aware. It is even now that they are going to the colleges of education to sensitize the teacher trainees. So if you are now going in there to sensitize them, how do you rush into saying that those who are finishing final year this year, you are going to start with them?
Stephen, is it not sometimes you need to jump in and iron out the creases because sometimes you will never be able to get it right because there will always be one challenge after the other, after the other, after the other, and sometimes you know what? Look, it's been on the books. Let's go for it. After the first year, we'll find out where the problems are, and we'll correct it, and then we'll move forward.
Yes, but rest of the onset, you are pointing out to you the problems that are likely to crop up with this. So why don't we deal with those issues before we jump in, and later, if we can, see something we couldn't see before we jump in, so that we can correct them moving forward. You see, this is the point I'm raising about this council. Okay, Nana. You see, we know the right thing to do, but we wouldn't do that. You see, the right things to do for teachers to work is not what we are doing. This council, so-called bad element in the classroom, you can eliminate them in the classroom using this examination, but the teaching will not be done the way you want it. The way it's supposed to be done, it will not be done the way you want it. Because you see, we've been dancing around the issues of education for so long. Okay? We'll bring this reform, we'll bring that reform, we'll bring this one, we'll bring that one, but still we are where we are. Look at the GHS concept, fantastic, but no investment. So we are where we are. You can bring the council, they will do their work, remove the elements, still, bad elements still. We'll still be where we are as we speak. So for some of us, what we are saying is this. If you want to see those who are working in the classroom, don't give them a piece of examination, a piece of paper to write something on for you to mark and pass them. Come to the classroom, okay, and assess the pupils or students there, and then give the teacher targets to meet at the end of each term or every year, so that if the teacher doesn't meet those requirements or the targets, you can sanction the teacher. But I can come and write the exams and pass. But in the classroom, I may not be delivering. So the work of the teacher is not done on a piece of paper. It's done in the classroom. But of course, we want a lazy approach. All of you come and sit and write. But the hard work involved to get the right things done. Look, in our classroom, we have children who cannot have a lot of learning disabilities. All of them are crammed up in one classroom. How do you identify all those people and put them aside and say, listen, these are the children in your class. Make sure by at the end of this year, about 80% can read. Then you give them the target. Then you leave it. If at the end of the year the teacher cannot meet that standard, then you hold that teacher accountable. But this business of writing on a pieces of papers as an examination, I don't see where we're going with this. Again, you will find out that when you come to a classroom, you the employer, you've just constructed a classroom. End of story. No library, no science lab, no ICT lab. There's absolutely nothing. In fact, the school is bare. Okay? Now, how do you expect the teacher to do his work in accordance with what you are telling him to do or her to do when science teachers are conducting science experiments on the board? Is that teaching? That's one. The one that the teachers draw things on the board. Is that the one teaching? So how do you assess such a teacher? You see, who satisfy our schools to be compliant? What's the standard for our schools? We need to license our schools first. We have to begin to license the schools that we're going to teach in. That was the requirement of a school. When you construct a school, what are the things you need to put in there to ensure that teacher A, teacher B, teacher X, Y, Z, go there and go and teach? What are the standards? So that you also hold me accountable. But it seems the employer wants to sit somewhere and hold the teachers accountable while doing absolutely nothing about the problem teachers are confronted with. You and I know about several issues in the media about how teachers draw computers on the board and try to teach and all that all over. You understand the point? So these are the real issues that confront education in Ghana. Fantastic. Council. You give license. We don't have a problem with it. Question is, will it solve the problem of education in a classroom? So constantly blaming teachers, it will not solve the problem. Of course, we have our side of the problem, okay? Some teachers are not fantastic the way you want them to be, but the issue here is, fundamentally, the only way to eliminate the bad nuts in the system, in quotes, is to pay teachers well. That's the only way out. Now imagine the least teacher takes, say, let's say 3,000 Ghana cedis or even 4,000 Ghana cedis a month in Ghana. The bad elements will leave themselves. They will not even dare go to the colleges of education or the university to train as teachers. Because the competition they will meet, they will not, cannot compete with those people. You understand the point? So we need investment in our education, money. We need to invest. Look, we spend 98% of our budget on salary and other things. Only 2% on investment. 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. I mean, seriously, sometimes we don't even get chalk even to use in our classrooms. Lesson notes will be lacking. So the real issues in the classroom, we've not started talking about them. So when you begin to tackle it from all these angles that are good, but they are not of essence right now, it becomes a problem. So I always use the example of the confidential teaching was about the children who are dying. Is it great for the nurses and the doctors there to show their alliances or whatever? Yes. But with the alliances that they have saved the babies from dying? No. Do they need incubators? Yes. Which one is more important? Is it the incubators or the alliances that the doctors and nurses are using to work? So fundamentally, we keep jumping over the real issues and just talking about non-issues that will not solve any problem.
Let me take a quick break here. When I come back, I'll go to Gifty and find out, should we license the schools before we license the teacher? Because that's just throwing the spanner in the works. We're coming straight back. Thank you very much, and we are hoping that in the next half an hour, by the time we leave here, we'll be able to license teachers before they go to the classroom. As you can see, it's not as easy as that. Just before the break, Stephen Desso, who's a prime servant of innovative teachers, just said, listen, license the schools before you license the teacher, because the teacher could have a grade AAA license, turn up at the school, no toilets, no computers, no science lab. Probably when it rains, he has to run home. How does this licensed teacher perform? Let me come to Gifty. Gifty, I mean, do you think he has an argument as to license the school before you worry about licensing the teacher, or you differ from that?
Licensing the teacher means that you are asking for accountability from the teacher. And if you are asking for accountability from the teacher, then you must make sure that the employer provides all the necessary working tools for the teacher. Because if you employ somebody at your workplace, it is the duty of the employer to provide the raw materials for the production. So, like he said, we have issues in the education sector that need to be given a holistic look at, so that we can provide solutions that will bring about quality education delivery. We have issues with the licensing because there are various questions that are also not answered. One, who is going to pay for the licensing examinations that are going to be conducted? If it is the teachers, how much is it? This must be documented.
Well, since it's the teacher and you're going to earn money out of it, it will be the teacher.
So how much is it? We should know. Number two, who pays for the professional development in-service training courses for the teachers? Because if you employ somebody with initial skills for your job, it means that you, the employer, must give the employee on-the-job training too. Yeah. So who is to pay for the cost of the on-the-job training? Is it the employer or the teacher? What kind of courses that the teacher, whilst working, is expected to pay for? And what type of courses is the employer expected to pay for? All these must be documented. What activities are teachers supposed to carry out? Because we are supposed to build portfolio for the renewal of your license and for promotions. What kind of activities are you supposed to carry out as a teacher whilst teaching, so that you can build your portfolio for renewal of your license and for promotions? All these things must be made bare before the teacher. Then when and how can a teacher's license be withdrawn? Who can revoke it? All these are issues that are legitimate, that the teacher should know before the licensing takes place. So we are not demanding for anything outside the ordinary. We are simply asking for what is legitimate. Because if I'm entering into a contract, I must be aware of the issues involved, so that when I am going wrong, I know myself that I am going wrong. These are the issues we are pointing out. And like I have told you, there is no official correspondence or documentation anywhere. This is the framework of the law. The details are what we should negotiate, because in the policy, there are issues bordering conditions of service, and there are issues bordering scheme of service. All these things have some relations to monetary payments. So there are issues that we have to negotiate with Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. There are issues that we also have to negotiate with the Employers Commission. Now, if we are not clear with all these things, and these things have not been negotiated for clearly, and you start licensing the teachers, then there will be confusion, which we are not interested in. We are insisting on this because we know what the Ghana Education Service is like. This is our conditions of service. Look at the expiring date on it. That's 2000. It was even not that went into printing these documents before teachers had it. We have finished negotiations with the document, the new conditions of service and scheme of service. These things have been lying at the GES. Nobody is printing them for the teachers. So if at the beginning of the scheme, the policy, we do not insist that the right things are done, and we allow them to implement them when the processes have not been completed, then it means that we are going to enter into the same trouble, just like our conditions of service. And anything that is is supposed to be done must be well done. And this is what we are saying. We are not refusing, because we also want to be compared by the international standards and whatever that is going on in the world outside Ghana. So that if a teacher picks his bag and says, I'm going to travel outside, he knows that when I go to this place, I can fit in. But we are saying that the processes, procedure, and all the documentation must be made bare, so that we all know that these are the rules of the game, so that we can all be happy at the end of it, so that no teacher feels victimized.
I'm surprised that major stakeholders like this are asking these questions when policymakers are announcing dates. What's the break in communication?
The break in communication is simply that the employer thinks that he can just pass on the policy without concluding the processes. And this is what we are saying. We are saying that the policy will become a good policy when the processes and the procedures are also good. Because after all, there are so many stakeholders in this policy. And so if people are going to be affected by the policy, they should be aware of what exactly their responsibilities are and what their rights are. That is all.
Do you want to add to that?
Well, for me, I have a position on these issues relative to what the council want to do. Again, we associate ourselves with everything. All of us are on the same page with the things that she is saying. Okay, so make sure that the nitty-gritties of whatever you are bringing in, we are in the known before you bring it, so that it will not be a surprise kind of thing. But you see, what I think the government is afraid of, okay, is the monetary aspect of it. The monetary aspect of it, because that's implication for the wage bill. And you know the IMF policy that we've entered into, that every day they talk about the escalation of the wage bill. So that's the issue. If you are going to license me, we will demand for A, B, and C. But if you cannot provide those things, then where would the license, what's the relevance of the license in relation to what you are telling me that you will do for me because I have a license? You see the point? So for me, all this rush is to put some things under the carpet and bulldoze the things through.
Don't you think this rush is so that the free education, the free SHS, there's a quality attached to it, so that it's not like a mass production thing, so that people think, oh, well, look, it's free, but the teachers are now licensed. So we add value to it, because if it's free, then...
Let me give you this example. In 2007, before 2007, we used to have a lot of people, teachers, and certificate A in the system, okay? So everybody was told to go and upgrade, okay? And the training colleges changed to colleges of education, and they were giving diploma. Most teachers in the classroom have degrees, okay? But since 2007 and now, what has been the quality of teaching in the classroom? Has it gone up? Is it the same? Is it going down? No research has been done relative to the question, the point that I'm making. So you see, the point I'm making here is this. It is not the paper you hold that does the work. The human being that's going to do the work at the end of the day. So I can have the paper.
No, I'm talking about public sentiment, knowing that, oh, hold on, when free SHS started, the teachers were licensed before they were allowed to move in. So in September, all the teachers that went to SHS had licenses, so that we have that, feel of quality attached to the free.
Yeah, the same feel that they have degree, they have diploma. They are no more set A, they are no more non-professional untrained teachers, but now they are degree holders and they are diploma holders. Okay, that's the same feeling, but has it translated into action in a classroom? So these are the issues. You see, the point here is this. The licensing is good, as we're saying, but you see, the point here is that when you give it to the teacher, and you don't police the teacher to do the work, it's a joke. If you don't pay salaries, as we speak now, teachers who started teaching since 2013 are owed arrears, and nothing is being talked about. And the license, what is most important? The value of the city at the time and the value of the city now is not the same. So the money has depreciated, and as time goes on, it keeps depreciating. The teachers down there are not happy. You cannot work with a workforce that are not happy. Teachers are not happy in this country. They are constantly agitated. We are what is called presentism. What the officials in GES and the Ministry of Education are interested in is absenteeism. We have presentism. The person will be there in the school, sign that the person is in on time, leaves on time, but the point here is that the work is not being done. The body is in the school, the mind is wandering somewhere because of problems he has with his finances.
So how much time they put in the work, but how much work they put in the time.
That's the government of that argument. With this extension of time. And are you bringing that argument?
Well, I just wanted to.
Nana,
yes.
To be honest with you, no teacher will intentionally leave the house to the workplace and say that I don't want to work. It is unprofessional. The moment you see the children, you are touched. But the issue is that the materials to work with are not there. That is where the frustration comes in. No teacher will leave the house and go to school and say that I will not teach. And you get there and the frustration sets in when you want to teach English language, reading and comprehension, and you have only one textbook in front of you. You have to copy all that is in the passage onto the blackboard. By the time you finish, the 30 minutes is gone.
It's gone, yeah.
That alone is frustrating enough to put you off. You turn around and the children who are sitting and are ready to write have notebooks to write in. I remember I went to a school 3 weeks after the opening of the first term, and the children were in the classroom, no exercise book to write with.
Oh.
If the teacher even wants to teach, how can she teach with this? I was forced to come back here, plead with my general secretary to buy exercise books for me to send to the school. Can we continue with that? So what we are simply saying is that yes, licensing the teachers is good, but make sure that you provide the raw materials, the teaching and learning materials in the school. Make our schools environment child-friendly, learner-friendly. Because sometimes you even go and the toilet seats that are provided in the school, the toilets that are provided there, are very dangerous for the children. You look at it and you find out that it is very, very embarrassing to expose our young children to such situations. Yet we are not looking at these things as part of the problem. The children are aware of what is happening. Sometimes they themselves, they feel unhappy. A child comes to the school with tattered clothing. And when he sees the colleagues, he becomes so depressed that he doesn't even want to have anything to do with the classroom. So what we are saying is that yes, licensing is good. But if you license us, we have to meet a criteria for a license to be renewed. Now, what are the teaching and learning materials you are putting in our schools for us to put up our best? So that when it is time for me to have my license renewed, that will not be withdrawn from me because of A, B, C, D, because I cannot put in my best when the teaching and learning materials are not available. We are also looking at supervision. Every human being is an economic animal. If you employ somebody and you do not supervise the person, that person may not put off the best. So just as we are looking at our teaching and learning materials in our schools, we are pleading with the government to make money available at our educational offices so that they can do a lot of supervision. Because the only difference between us and the public sector and the private sector is supervision. Because it is the same teachers who are in the public system who are doing part-time teaching, especially with the difficult subjects like mathematics, English language, and science in the private schools. But because there are textbooks, there is enough supervision, adequate supervision, that is why the children are doing well. Even parents who send their children to those schools know what they are about. They supervise.
At home.
So what we are saying is that as a country, we need to have a holistic view about whatever quality that we want for our children. As we are talking now, even if you ask the GES, what is their definition of quality education? They themselves cannot define it.
You see?
They cannot define it.
You see?
Is it passing exams?
Great. Great.
That is quality?
Great.
What are we what is it as a country?
Yes.
Are we defining as quality education?
Yes.
Ask them and see whether they will be able to provide a definition.
Yeah.
Now that's a serious question.
Yes.
So you see, quality education, as she's saying, what is quality? Quality according to whose standards? We are competing within the context of globalized economy, where the likes of Japan and Malaysia, Singapore, and the rest, we are competing against them. If you compare what you're giving to your human resource here, and for me, it's about time we call teachers, we remove the name teachers and call ourselves human resource developers, because it encapsulates the whole, idea of what we ought to do. Because you see, like I said on this program before, the oil and the gold and the rest, that is not what will develop a nation. It's a human being. So the best oil we have are the boys and girls in our classroom. Are we saying that the best way we can put their human resource to use is that when they finish GHS, they'll go and sell on the street? Every street corner that you go to, you see them, they're selling bread and the rest. So what is quality? How do you define quality in the context of our development agenda as a country? Yesterday when I was here, I gave an example of the FPSO, okay? Can we say that in the next 10 years, this is the agenda of the nation, we have to produce our own FPSO as a quality assurance of educational system? Because you see, that's leadership. When J.F. Kennedy was being inaugurated, he said by the time this decade comes to an end, America will put a man on the moon. At the time he said so, America did not have the technology to even put a man 100 meters above the sky. But 69, they were able to go to the moon. That's leadership. What is the vision of the leadership of the country as far as education is concerned? So if we don't define the quality, for me, even the word quality, it is subjective. I call it relevant education. What you are saying, is it relevant to the advancement of the economic well-being of the nation and its citizens? If it is not, you are wasting your time. So if it's about passing examination, and so the minister goes everywhere and says 0% is not acceptable. Of course, not acceptable. How can teachers teach somebody from kindergarten to GHS 3 and all of them will get it? Clearly unacceptable. But the question is, what are the skills that a GHS student is expected to have at the end of the 10 years or 9 years of basic education? Have we defined that? How about SHS? Have we defined that? How about the university? Have we defined that? We recently changed poly to technical universities. Just by name, what have we put in there? Absolutely nothing. We are interested in the cosmetic aspect of it. Makeup. We are making up education. The real person is in there. When you remove the makeup, it's ugly. You understand the point? You make up and it's nice. You remove the makeup and it's ugly. So we should stop this cosmetic approach in this business of running education. Because you see, education is the only way Ghana will move out of poverty into a respectable status in the world economy. Without that, we are going nowhere. The diseases that surround us is education. All the filth around is about education. So everything rises and falls on education. So if we have a wishy-washy approach in addressing issues of education, it's a problem. Look, the policy makers, they can say, oh, our children are in the private schools. But listen, your child may go to Harvard and come back. But, you know, the driver who is driving your son or daughter has received this wishy-washy education. What kind of driving that will your daughter receive from, you know? So defining quality education must come in line with the developmental agenda of the nation. And if we cannot define who we are as a people and where we want to go in the next 10 years, 5 years, then it means that we are just moving. We are plodding along.
Let me come to Gifty and give you that extended teaching hours. What's your position on it, briefly?
The employer has a right to determine the working hours if they are not beyond international standards, the ILO, 8 hours. But teaching is a profession whereby you cannot equate it to any job.
Yes.
Because the teacher prepares from the house before coming to school. You are expected to write your lesson notes at home, mark the exercise books at home. You are not expected to use the contact hours in the school to do those things. So it means that the work begins in the house before you even come to the workplace. And this is a negotiable issue. So the employer cannot just say that I'm extending when he has not engaged with the employee, because it is against our collective agreement. We have negotiated for the present hours that we are working for, and that if the employer feels that there is a need to extend, it's just a matter of engaging employees through their unions, who will sit down and negotiate with government and then come to a conclusion. And the necessary remuneration should be given to the teachers before the hours are extended.
That's fair.
Yes, Nana. You know, it's sad that we think that, you know, putting a lot of things in there is good. So for me, it's a mentality that says that if you stay in the classroom for so long, it means it's good. So why don't you start from 6 to 6 then? Teachers will start teaching at 6 and they end up at 6. There are some students in my class who are looking after themselves. Yeah, we go to many of our communities. The children who must be, taken care of by parents, they are taking care of themselves. Yeah. So they close home school and then they have to do something to earn something so that they can come to school the next day. So when you say from 6 or 6:30 or 8 to 4, what you are saying is that you cannot do anything apart from that. So what's going to happen is that most of these students or people will drop out of school. 2, most of them come to school and they don't even eat in the first place. And even what they eat at school is so scanty that it will not suffice for that 4 o'clock. So what it means is that after 2, you are just wasting your time. Even the 2 is so much. You see, we have to define this. What is the quality use of instructional time in our schools? If we cannot define the quality use of instructional time in our schools, then we are just wasting time, in a classroom. Because no matter how I use the stone to teach as a TLM for mouse, as your reporter saw in one of the schools in the central region, okay, it can never dram home understanding. You can do it for the whole, day, still the same thing stone. So rather bring in the tools and rather reduce the subjects. We have 8 subjects at the JHS level. They are unnecessary. It's an unnecessary burden. We don't need these things. Reduce the subjects. Let's have a few subjects. Reduce the contact hours. But make sure the tools are there. Teachers are properly trained. They are properly tooled. They are properly paid. Okay? And they are properly supervised. Look, when you go to most districts in our country, even A4 sheet to print something on, it's a problem. Supervisors are not given what it takes for them to go around the schools to check what teachers are doing. So if the Ministry of Education is not sending money to the district offices for them to do their work, and you sit in Accra, and all you do is go around lamenting about results, and yet the district directors are not speaking, the regional directors are not speaking. I wonder why they cannot speak when they don't have the tools. Is it that they are protecting their jobs, or they are protecting the image of the government? When I say government, I don't mean this particular government, so don't get me wrong. I mean successive government. That has been the way directors have been doing. To the extent that when a reporter went to that school, that the regional director said he has disgraced the district or the region. How could it be? Really?
The employer, like I have told you, has a right to determine the working hours, provided it is not beyond the 8 hours. I have told you the issue with the teaching profession. All the issues he has raised are right. But what we are also saying is that in looking at the extension of the time, are we going to have the morning and afternoon sections, or is going to be a straight day?
Straight day, that's what they're saying.
If it is a straight day, what informed policymakers to stop the, the morning, afternoon, not shifts? It was one day, you break for lunch and come back. That was what we were practicing before we had this system. It was because the children are coming to the school with their younger brothers and sisters, because the KGs are attached to our basic schools. So they come with very young children traveling far distances to these schools. And so it is expected that that small child will not be able to stand the hunger and thirst for that long period. So they made it in such a way that the ones who are in JHS, when they close, they should be able, the primary section should be able to also close around the same time so that they can go home together. Now, if you are going to extend it, then government should be prepared to provide the children with enough meal to let them stay in school. Because at the village level, many parents will not have money to give to their children to go and buy food at the school.
They'll have to come home and eat.
They have to come home and eat.
But this is a conversation that needs to go on. It has just started. And I told you, education is my pet subject. And I think all the relevant issues have been raised today. If we're going to make it or break it, will all start with a good teacher and a good education. Whether it's filth, disease, poverty, ignorance, superstition, everything would have to be cleared through education. and it has started. And hopefully you see my guest back again when the formalities are now in place to find out whether they agree with it or they don't. Thank you very much for watching.
Before we close, I want to
briefly
inform all of us that there's something going on wrong that we have to correct as a nation. We are an agric country.
Yeah, agrarian economy.
And if we want to make sure that our teeming youth are employed,
so
then we should make sure that agric in our schools
is very
strong.
Very strong. I think
because the subject is dying.
That's a good point. Tomorrow on Personality Profile, we have Reverend Dr. Edu Jemfi, who is the president of the Baptist Convention Ghana. Very interesting story he has to tell. You don't want to miss it. Thank you very much for watching, but we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you, Gifty. It's been a wonderful conversation.